everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, your 2019 Information Management Resolution. I'm Teresa Resick, the Director of Online Events at AIIM, and AIIM is your host and producer of today's webinar. And with me are AIIM's Chair of the Board, Mark Patrick, and from Alfresco, we have John Newton. And Alfresco is the underwriter of today's webinar, and we thank them very much for their support. And thank you for taking the time to join us today. And as we get started, just wanted to offer a few pointers for viewing today's webinar. By joining live, you can customize your own viewing experience, so feel free to open, close, or resize the different windows. And across the bottom of your screen is the list of all of the widgets that we do have available for you. And one of those widgets is Group Chat, and it doesn't automatically open for you, so if you could just go down there and click on Group Chat, you'll be able to text with each other and also with a few of us here at AIIM. If you do have questions of the speakers throughout our time, please ask them and submit them in the Q&A feature. We will hold these until a little bit later, where we should have about 5 or 10 minutes to answer them. And you can also use that feature to ask for technical assistance. You may download a PDF of the presentation at any time. Just look to the resources list. And there's also a few other links in there to help you learn more about what all we're going to be talking about today. And at the end of the webinar, a brief survey will open in your browser, and it is also in the widgets below the slide area. And I would greatly appreciate it if you would take a few moments and offer your feedback. And this webinar is being recorded, and it will be posted to AIIM.org's Resources Webinars page in just a few days. And before we get started, I just wanted to mention that to thank you for joining us today. Later in the webcast, we're going to be drawing a name from today's attendees for a complimentary BPM Specialist online course. And so stay tuned until later, and when we're going to announce who our winner is. But just to give you a little bit of taste of the training offerings that AIIM offers, and we just wanted to thank you for coming to our final webcast of the year. So now I'd like to introduce the speakers that we have with us today. Mark Patrick is the 2018 chair of AIIM's Board of Directors, and he's wrapping up his 5th year on the board with one more to go as the former chair. He is a retired Navy helicopter pilot, but for the past 11 years has been in information management leadership position in a U.S. federal agency. He discovered AIIM through his local national capital chapter of AIIM some years ago. And Mark is a certified information professional, and he thinks you should be too. Mark is a frequent speaker and a panelist on information management issues. And John Newton is Alfresco's CTO and founder, and he's had one of the longest and most influential careers in content management. In 1990, John co-founded, designed, and led the development of Documentum, and for the next 10 years, he invented many of the concepts widely used in the industry today. John was also one of the founding engineers at Ingress, where he helped develop the world's first commercial relational database. So right now, I am going to turn things over to Mark Patrick to begin our talk today. Mark?
Thank you. I'm delighted to be here with the audience overseas, which presented on yesterday with another audience. And actually, what I'd like to share with you is AIIM's very new graphic associated with the concept of intelligent information management initially, so we're sort of wearing my board hat, and then I'll switch to my public sector end user hat and give you a few ideas from my personal perspective. So this is the new graphic, and some of the discussion around it is still evolving, but I've found it to be a really great starting point for conversations with all kinds of stakeholders in the information management space. The arrow that wraps around it is something that I'll talk about, really, that this is a continuous journey, and I want to kind of talk about the journey a little bit as I get into the personal commentary, but you can see that there are sort of 3 pieces inside this that the board and the staff of AIIM strategically thinks will frame the conversation as we move into 2019. The first idea is that intelligent information management is a practice. It's that integrates people, process, information, and technology to achieve a new digital state. It's not really an industry, and it's kind of hard to discuss in that way. But the content services piece of this is probably historically the most familiar to folks who have been around AIM for a long time, with content services being the term that's being used more frequently than the older term enterprise content management. It's key to point out the fact that we use the term services here in regard to all of these three integrated components of intelligent information management, and that's very intentional because a modern enterprise must be able to link these capabilities together on the fly to respond to a continually changing business environment. And it's useful to talk about services in this regard. So within the content services area, we're talking about things, traditional AIM things, business content and collaboration, transactional content, content integration and migration, records management and preservation. Most of the folks who've been in the AIM space before are familiar with these, and these are the ones that AIM has generated lots of content for in recent years. Sort of more new piece here is the process services piece, where we begin to look at things like business process management, robotic process automation. They're not brand new technologies, but it's become clear to folks in the content space that it's impossible to talk about content without talking about your processes. I'll talk about this more later on a personal level, but and robotic process automation is a thing that is getting a lot more press, and it's essentially taking these kind of processes that are really more data entry and don't require as much skill, and automating them in a way so that you can take those folks that are spending a lot of time doing these low-value type operations, turn that over to a machine or software, what have you, and then they can be doing more value-added activity. Low code and blockchain, some of these things the board is still kind of discussing whether or not this verbiage is exactly correct. Does it fit in which places it fit? But these things sort of on the first pass we've initially lumped into the process services area. And in analytics services, right off the bat, the capture piece is controversial amongst the board, I would say, where it actually belongs. But we're putting content analytics and semantics, data recognition, extraction, standardization, privacy and protection in this area, and it's sort of, again, a cluster of services that are roughly in one bundle and then have relationships holistically to these other two pieces. So that's kind of a quick run-through of the new marketing graphic, and I think we'll be seeing that branding on AIM content moving into the year more and more. But regardless of who you are, whether you're a vendor, hardware, software, an integrator, or a consultant, or an end user like myself in the public sector, it really comes down to it all being about the business. In the public sector, you might talk about it being about the mission or serving the public, but it's transforming that, not just about technology, but always about improvements to those business processes and the way that our organizations do business, many facets of managing the life cycle of information across an enterprise that enable organizations to make those improvements. Now, I want to talk personally a little bit, and when I first produced this slide and presented with someone else, they said, "Why do you want to make people afraid?" And we talked about that. I said, "That's interesting, but this is a very personal thing for me," and probably because, I grew up in the Navy as a helicopter pilot, where I learned that fear was a good thing. And to just bring that point home, I have a quote from Harry Reasoner, who is an older commentator in the U.S., that he made back in the 70s about helicopter pilots and why they're different. And he said, "The thing is, helicopters are different from planes. An airplane, by its nature, wants to fly, and if not interfered with too strongly by unusual events or by a deliberately incompetent pilot, it will fly. A helicopter does not want to fly. It is maintained in the air by a variety of forces and controls working in opposition to each other. And if there is any disturbance in this delicate balance, the helicopter stops flying immediately and disastrously. There is no such thing as a gliding helicopter." This is why being a helicopter pilot is so different from being an airplane pilot, and why, in generality, airplane pilots are open, clear-eyed, buoyant extroverts, and helicopter pilots are brooding, introspective anticipators of trouble. They know if something bad has not happened, it is about to. So I related that that's probably why I think this way, but it's fine because knowing that it's harder than you think it might be involves more people than you think, and it'll take longer. It's probably an endless journey, is all things that give an information professional job security. But that's just my personal lens and how I look at things. That's not the main ideas. I wanted to sort of talk about three big ideas from my personal experience over the past decade plus in this area. The first being that intelligent information management is not only about technology. It's a holistic thing, and the journey is continuous. So not comprehensively, but a couple of big ideas about it not just being about technology. I learned early on that business process is key to doing information management well, specifically being aware of your own organization's business processes, who manages them, who controls them, and how do they relate to the information or data consumed or produced for your organization. And so if you have technology that has poor processes baked into it, or the processes, however they're completed, are not well put together, you're going to have information problems. And so I sort of learned that I needed to learn about this. I didn't necessarily need to become a Lean Six Sigma black belt or a professional in continuous process improvement, but that in general I needed to know who managed these processes, who owned these processes in the organization that I belonged to. And in that way, I started to expand the relationships outside just the pure information management cadre that I worked among. So that's sort of one of the things that's significant about this journey for an organization, public or private sector, is that historically it's sort of gone through the early stage where you're starting to digitize processes, and then sort of the second phase of that is optimizing that. And then the third, you start to do transformation where you really start to work on the customer experience, whether internal or external. And other ways that AIIM has talked about this kind of transformation journey is that in the early days we talked about systems of records, and then we began to talk about systems of engagement, and then systems of insight. Now, that's interesting to me, but what it really gets as an end user, where it becomes very practical, is that the group of stakeholders associated with this evolution and this transformation journey just keeps growing and growing. So in the beginning, you essentially are starting with the back office practitioners, and then you start to loop in people that are kind of line of business, maybe knowledge workers and knowledge professionals. Then as you start to move into the transformative space, you start to get into some heavy data science, and also starting to really involve your C-suite or your executive level folks. And none of those other first group of folks, they don't fall off. It's actually now you have this entire crowd of folks that you need to interact with in a way that everybody sort of understands at some level holistically how these things all work together, the people, process, and technology. That makes the journey complicated. You can do more amazing things, but it becomes more complicated. And so I robbed this little thing. This is actually the song 1986 from a group several years ago put this out. You may have heard of, but it was on a Microsoft T-shirt that I picked up in their gift shop when I made a visit back there. The point here is words. Words, when you consider this growing group of stakeholders, you can find it very difficult for IT folks to talk with records folks, to talk with C-suite folks, to talk with data scientists, because they may be talking about the exact same thing, but they use a different taxonomy, a different set of words, and it can be very confusing. So I think that it's incumbent upon an information professional to connect those dots, to recognize that you may be talking about the same problem, but you're using different dialects, and to get a data science person to understand what a records person means when they say records, or an IT person to understand that to a records person, unstructured data and structured data may not be useful terms, and really just to ensure that we're dotting I's, crossing T's, and connecting people around this body of thought that's getting more challenging as more stakeholders need to come to the table. So that's kind of where you see that it's definitely not just about technology. There's some heavy people and process involved. And as an information professional, if that's a gap for you, it's something that you should consider broadening. So on the holistic side, I found when I searched holistic and looked for a graphic that I constantly kept coming upon these photos of stacked rocks. Somebody among you may know how this relates to holistic, but to me I was just like, okay, I'm going to go with this. Stacked rocks in front of a serene environment, we're in. But long before that AIM graphic was there, I was convinced that whatever type of organization you were working in, you were doing these 5 different sort of clusters of activity around task or process or workflow, around collaboration, around search, around data management, whether you called it content, records, structured and unstructured data, depending on how you came to the table, and then finally some sort of analytics, whether it's rudimentary business intelligence around, is something late, is it on time, how many things are late or on time, those sorts of reports, into much more complex data analytics. Everybody's doing this, public or private sector, and this all needs to be done not in silos, but together in a way that you're not wasting money, losing efficiencies, because in the end you want all of your information to be lifecycle managed and you want it to be discoverable. To me, those are 2 imperatives as an information manager that I want to see happen so that I can do the things that I want to do to improve the way that we do business. So that's the kind of a holistic concept and how I'd like to present that to you for your consideration. And then finally, to realize that when you look at that AIM graphic, focus on that arrow that's wrapping around it. This is a continuous process, and there are folks that sort of specialize in this area of continuous improvement, but you're not going to arrive and you're not going to get it all done at once. It's definitely an iterative process. You have to pilot and scale. You have to do things in certain areas while keeping in mind that you need to consider things holistically and make your roadmap a holistic roadmap, involve all the stakeholders that you need to, and just buckle up and enjoy the ride and grow with a community that's doing this, like AIM, so that you can decide what's the best thing for your organization to do based on their current reality and their own journey. So those were the personal thoughts that I wanted to share with you that wrap around the AIM graphic. It's very fast moving through those ideas, and there's lots of potential for deep dive, but that's what I'd like to share. It's been a pleasure to share those thoughts with you, and I'll be available, online and through the AIM community if you want to continue the conversation. With that, John, I'd like to turn it over to you.
Okay, thanks, Mark. Hi, I'm John Newton. I'm the CTO of Alfresco. I actually served on the AIM board at the same time as Mark a few years ago. I was chair, a couple chairs before he was, and one thing about AIM is that the concepts, the ideas of how practices and technology come together have always been really insightful, and I enjoyed learning more about the latest thinking from AIM. And it certainly lines up with a lot of things that we've been thinking about as well. Now, my job at Alfresco and previously at Documentum as well is to just kind of look and say, what happens next? Where does this industry go, and how can we play a role in that industry? And that's been kind of the driving force behind Alfresco. So Alfresco was founded in 2005, and we're here to help create a digital business platform, our digital business platform, but perhaps more importantly, your digital business platform. So the concepts, the ideas, the services that Mark just talked about from AIM's perspective of content, process, analytics, insight, governance is what we're pulling together in an open source model, not locking you in, providing you with the source code so that you can actually see how things work. You can modify it if you want to, but more importantly, it's a way of working to engage with a large community of developers, many of which are our partners, but also our customers as well. And we have over 1,300 customers. And they're providing these types of systems, the content, the process, the analytics, the insight, the search services for over 11 million users. and it's the 350 employees of Alfresco who are creating that product and bringing it to you. So what I wanted to talk about was this role of intelligent information management is actually critical to the idea of digital transformation. And digital is so important right now. And I wanted to talk about why it's so important. Now, take a look at this list. This list is the 20 most valuable companies in the whole world. And if you looked at this list 10 years ago, it would be very different. More oil companies, more banks, more retail companies. And things have really changed. And the reason that they've changed is not because those companies got worse and just fell off. It's because those companies that became digital first started to rise up through that list of most valuable companies. And they started with digital, and then they started looking at their capabilities as a platform and actually as an API to be consumed in new solutions, new applications, and actually starting to create platforms. So they became platforms and started to create ecosystems around digital platforms. And now they're changing even further. These companies are becoming artificial intelligence first, with artificial intelligence becoming a core capability of that platform. Now, it's not just about technology here. It's really about new capabilities. And when you think about digital transformation, McKinsey starts to line up some of the ideas and concepts of digital transformation in terms of a lot of the capabilities that Mark was talking about earlier, but taking your core capabilities, your information services, your processes, your global infrastructure, your compliance, your governance, your value chain, your security, and just those things that make you a robust and resilient organization. Package that up as a platform for agility. Open it up using open data, open APIs, open standards, open architecture, and also open source is becoming really important for digital leaders as well to quickly create digital solutions. So those core services and capabilities only come alive for serving the customer when you can pull them together and quickly create customer initiatives, digital initiatives that serve your customers, your partners, your ecosystem, and the market, and start to deliver those capabilities in a meaningful way. And McKinsey talks about these capabilities not so much as digital solutions, but a bit more like apps on your smartphone. The smartphone itself evolves relatively slowly as a platform, but the apps on your smartphone are constantly changing, and your digital initiatives should be constantly changing as well, serving the purpose that they're intended for, developed quickly, just like a startup would create them, but using the core capabilities of your platform. So they like to say that agility rhymes with stability. The stability of the platform allows you to have that agility to address new markets. And as we start to think about platforms, it's not just for those internet companies that kind of rose up quickly to the top. Increasingly, everyone is becoming a digital company. Manufacturing companies providing things like purchasing, maintenance, connecting to IoT initiatives, governments in terms of how they serve citizens and their employees and also their partners. Banking is actually becoming more like an API to be consumed by their clients, as opposed to being brick and mortar or just simply a group of people selling services through databases. Now it's becoming more rapidly integrated into everyone's lives and more accessible than ever before using digital technology. Or business services organizations engaging not in physical ways, but in digital ways. And some of the thinking about what do those platforms actually do, well, we can think about it in a number of different ways. These platforms are serving people, they're connecting to processes, they're connecting to things, and some of those are internal and external. But in terms of a digital outside, there often has to be a digital inside. Now, when we look at the types of things that you can do with digital, whether it's employee experiences, external experiences such as the website or new ways of engaging, new products that are connected through platforms to networks and ecosystems, to the back office operations that actually run your business. What we can see is that usually you start with the digital outside because you want to engage with your customers, you want to facilitate support, services, the flow of supply chain, faster retail services, faster sales. But those don't actually work unless you can engage on the inside as well, the digital inside. And all these things need to be able to connect together. In fact, more importantly, digital operations are the things that glue all those different quadrants together, and more importantly, bring those process and things to people and make them consumable by people. In fact, things like content make data in those processes and things more accessible, more usable, more consumable by ordinary people, providing them with knowledge and understanding of what's happening with their things, their processes, or whatever's going on in the system. In order to make this really come to life in terms of what digital operations really means, let's start with an example, something like a customer onboarding solution as a digital initiative, one of those quick, fast digital solutions that you might try to create to become more of a digital company that becomes part of your journey toward digital transformation. So we start, first of all, with maybe the infrastructure. Now, increasingly, that infrastructure will come from the cloud. You could go out and you can buy all the hardware, provision the hardware in order to get your digital solution up and going. But increasingly, the majority of people who are going down this path are taking more of a cloud-first approach to be able to take and scale out their solutions and to be able to quickly create new solutions and shut down solutions that are no longer applicable. Then to create an integrated service architecture and start first with processes, because digital initiatives are really about starting with the process and then taking that process and either re-engineering an existing process or perhaps creating a process that didn't exist before. So you start to design your onboarding processes, how customers can serve themselves once on board, or if there are any problems, creating service requests to be able to solve problems. And from there, you can start to look at your content services, your governance services, your insight services and analytics services that will support those business processes. So all those elements that Mark was talking about as part of intelligent information management is actually critical to digital transformation. And that journey increasingly is becoming not just a matter of efficiency and working better with those systems, but to serve customers and to create more of a digital platform and turn companies into digital businesses. And it isn't just those services alone. It needs to integrate with the rest of the organization and other systems as well, the systems of record, the systems of engagement as well. So your CRM systems, your ERP systems, your support systems. And then having application development frameworks that can access these services to quickly create the digital solutions. So creating a customer enrollment application that may be accessible through your mobile phone, or your customer information portal, a resolution center to be able to deal with images, a portal to be able to get managers to be able to quickly approve things without slowing down processes, and also self-serving customers. And increasingly, customers themselves, especially in a B2B environment, are going to want to consume your services just like you want to consume services of others. So providing APIs for customer self-service or for partners to be able to deal with issues quickly. So that kind of gives you an idea of how those services will actually play in your transformation to becoming a digital business, a digital organization with a set of business capabilities in the form of digital applications, customer applications, partner applications, or perhaps APIs built with a solutions framework that accesses those core capabilities of your platform that you open up and make available. And increasingly, companies are looking to the cloud to be able to provision these things faster than ever before, to get you the agility to create those applications faster and to be able to respond to new market opportunities wherever possible. Essentially taking your technology capabilities as well as your business capabilities to quickly create solutions for your customers to be able to quickly respond to new ideas, new concepts, problems, solutions, and new digital products as well. And in the future as well, we can see all these new technologies that are coming up. Some of them, Mark, listed in insight services, some listed in process services, but things like artificial intelligence, microservice architectures, cloud going beyond just being infrastructure as a service, blockchain, edge computing, and multimodal user interfaces that go beyond just the laptop to incorporate voice, vision, gestures, chat, and just more natural user interfaces as well. All these new capabilities are more easily consumed when you start to think about things from a platform perspective. So look at your digital capabilities, what you have today, what you have in the future. Make them a platform like those market leaders in the industry today to be able to respond to new ideas and concepts faster. So when we start to think in terms of platform thinking, now we can start to get to an entirely new scale. We can start to move to the cloud and adapt faster to new business opportunities in order to serve customers and partners more effectively. And that helps create a more agile business as well to meet customer requirements and perhaps more importantly, end user requirements with new digital initiatives and deliver the solutions that users need and want rather than simply those that help make our businesses more effective. Let's make our customers more effective. And let's introduce new technologies where it makes sense to be able to innovate more rapidly than ever before. Those companies at the top didn't get there by just standing still and becoming more efficient and just focusing only on the bottom line. It's focus on the top line through digital innovation and to rapidly evolve new digital capabilities and exploit new technologies and keep ahead of the competition and ultimately win. And we at Alfresco are providing a digital business platform to help organizations connect people, content, processes, and analytics to accelerate digital transformation, to help you build intelligent business solutions that faster than ever before, and to also provide a much better user experience for employees, for customers, for partners, and accelerate the pace of innovation across the enterprise. And I hope that you can join us as well as many other customers in government, financial services, healthcare, manufacturing, and corporate as well. So, as we're coming up to the new year and it's time to make business resolutions, here's some things to think about. how are digital leaders thinking about digital transformation? How are they taking concepts like intelligent information management and applying it to business advantage? Well, go to our website and take a look at the 7 habits of digital leaders at the following URL. And then start to think about, what are your strategic capabilities as an organization? Are you making them available for your employees, for your customers, and for your partners as a digital business platform? You should think about that and start to plan in the new year toward moving toward that the way that digital leaders are as well. And identify your digital business initiatives for competitive advantage. Quickly create those solutions to go faster than the potential disruptors and help disrupt your industry. And integrate digital operations to take that digital inside and make your digital outside more effective. Integrate the entire organization through digital operations. And then also look at open source as a foundation for that digital business platform. We're open source. Also, you can try it online, but just go ahead and go to alfresco.com/tryalfresco and just give it a go. And with that, I think we'll hand it over.
Well, thank you. We've been listening to John Newton of Alfresco, and before that, Mark Patrick, AIIM's chair of the board. One thing I just want to mention here real quickly, as John was sharing all of these really good tips and resources here, the link for this first link, the digital leaders, how they think about digital transformation, that 7 habits, that is one of the links in the resources section that's on your screens right now. So go ahead, click on that, and that web page is going to open for you in a different browser tab. And just take a look at that after our event today, because that is a really good resource there. And certainly when you download a PDF of the slides, these links will be there for you to come back and share them with your colleagues and visit with that as well. And so and just as we go into the Q&A, just one of the things that we wanted to get you thinking about, just what is your AIIM 2019 resolution, that intelligent information management? What is your resolution? And in looking at the questions that came up here, and I just wanted to start with this first one. And Mark, I'm going to start with you, but also John, please feel free to join in on this. Because I know, Mark, you in your part of the presentation, you were speaking of, the importance of learning each other's languages, departmentally with how you think, how you work, how you've been trained to work, to learn each other's languages, and for gathering the right stakeholders, for bringing, for tackling your organization's digital transformation efforts. But just wanted to have you share your thoughts on how to build that right intelligent information management team to progress an organization's transformation.
That's a great question. It's also a heavily people-based question, and it's unique to your organization, the personalities, the culture. I think it first starts with asking yourself questions that, who do I need on the team? You will probably have to build relationships with folks that you don't necessarily normally work with, or you haven't in the past, to do this in a holistic way. So, that's almost like something that I haven't received, I'm not a professional in that area. That's come from, 30 years or 40 years of work experience. So I think, understanding your entire organization is important. You can't just focus on sort of, where is the information stored and things like that. So doing some self-study on your organization and then pushing out and, starting new relationships, initiating new relationships, asking to be invited to meetings, inviting folks to meetings that potentially you hadn't done in the past, and starting to build professional and personal bridges so that as you approach things from a more holistic way, you'll start to learn those languages during that process, and you'll start to, be able to explain things from a holistic approach so that people understand the value of what you do and how it relates to what they do and how it can work together, synergistically. But there'll be some cultural obstacles, I'm sure, and I have begun to answer some questions about that on the widget, and those will be there. But it really starts with just, being determined to do it, and then figuring out what locally you need to do.
Because I would even think that reaching out to all the different various business departments, people from legal, people from the traditionally the records management department, if that is a separate department for you, from the different business units, just bringing everybody together for that, because all of it's important, because it all does have to work together. It's
something of a marketing challenge, frankly. And if you don't have a background in marketing, which I don't, but you may find that reading up on marketing tips online and learning some basic things about that will help you to essentially sell your ideas into the organization about how things are related to one another, how certain things add value, or how that they can work better synergistically and add efficiency if they're working together. And so there's a bit of marketing. There's definitely some interpersonal skills that are key that go well beyond understanding the process and the technology. And it's tricky business. And I think it's a skill set in and of itself. Maybe would be considered soft skills, but I don't like that term. I think it's critical to the business to build these relationships cross-functionally across the organization.
Yeah, if I could contribute as well, I think one of the things is that in records is there's incredibly important and useful information. It's part of an overall information management opportunity, but when leadership actually understands the value of the information that's locked up in some of these things and wants to make it more accessible, then you get more of a top-down and drive to actually get the rest of the organization to buy into this. Increasingly, everyone is becoming a records manager. Everyone's becoming an information manager. That's been part of what AIIM is driving, is help create information professionals. But we're all information professionals, especially, as long as you're a knowledge worker. And what comes out of this is the truth. And that's what we get out of records management, is the truth. And that truth should be an important part of driving business. When you look at digital transformation, which I think is kind of a superset of a lot of the initiatives that are going on, those that are most successful in driving that actually have the CEO buying into this. And how you manage your information, how you apply it, is critical to becoming a digital company and making it more accessible. And so getting the CEO to buy into this is part of being a successful business. It's not just about records management then.
Thank you. Just a couple additional things that I just wanted to let our audience know about. As you probably have heard, AIIM 19, our annual conference, is coming up, and it's coming very quickly. It's going to be in March in 2019, and it's going to be in San Diego in the U.S. And now's the time to plan for your budgets and get this on your learning agenda for next year. And AIIM is doing a drawing right now to help make that a little bit easier for you. Anyone who newly registers for the conference between now and January 14th, so about over the next month, we're going to be entered into a drawing to win 2 free hotel nights on us. And we're going to be choosing 3 lucky people to win that. And so there is a giveaway going on right now. So for more information, go to aimconference.com/giveaway. And if you do register before January 14th, you're eligible to win a couple of free hotel nights, which is just makes coming to AIIM that much better. But it's the conference itself is a fabulous thing. You really don't want to miss it, because there are dozens upon dozens of roundtable sessions and learning sessions and the kinds of interactivity and the conversations that you have with your peers and with each other. AIIM's event team puts together a fantastic lineup of speakers and opportunities for you to learn and help your organization. So I encourage you to check all of that out. And also, the AIIM Forum Europe has set a date for our event in Europe, and it is going to be on the 12th of November in 2019. And it's going to be held in London, so save the date. That is going to be a little bit later in the year. But the AIIM Forum is another fabulous one-day in-person event, and also with great lineup of speakers and a keynote at that. So just save the date for November for later in the year next year for attending AIIM Forum. And just want to announce the winner of the drawing I mentioned at the beginning of our event, that just to thank you for attending our event today. And the winner of that is, and that's for our BPM Specialist online course, is Daru Sani Zango from the Central Bank of Nigeria. My colleague Kate drew your name from the list of attendees, and you are a winner. And so Kate and Maureen are going to be in touch with you just to help you access that course. But thank you very much, and appreciate your joining our event today. And this is all that we do have time for. And just to remind everyone that we have recorded this session because it was a really great talk hearing Mark and John share their thoughts today, and do encourage you to share this with your colleagues. But don't forget to download the resources. Please take the survey. And I very much want to thank our underwriter, Alfresco. Without the support of our solution providers, AIIM would not be able to bring you these free educational programs. So thank you so much, Alfresco, for your sponsorship. And just as we bring this webinar to a close, I just want to leave you with our speaker's closing thoughts or a key takeaway. And I'm going to start first with John Newton from Alfresco. Your closing thoughts today.
Yeah, I think intelligent information management is clearly the direction that information is being applied to business problems and business solutions. It starts with process first and is becoming part of the transformation of the whole world, digital transformation, in which everyone, all corporations, all organizations, government, charities, as well as manufacturing, financial services, et cetera, they're all becoming digital businesses. And intelligent information is a great way to get started, and that thinking about your business as a platform is the direction you should be heading.
Thank you, John. And Mark Patrick, AIIM's chair of our board of directors, your closing thoughts today. Mark, are you on mute?
Yes, I'm on the line. Thank you. Sure, I'd like to encourage the attendees, who are took the initiative to participate in this webinar to resolve to get more involved with AIIM. It may not be easy where you are locally. There might not be a local chapter, but the online community is getting stronger, and there's a lot of interaction. You can, if you're new to this, whatever segment of information management you come to the table for, it can seem kind of overwhelming when you look at all of the things that you sort of need to learn about, gaps you need to fill. But there are a lot of folks out there. You're not alone, and I would say take some effort to involve yourself in the AIIM community, get answers, participate, share what you know as well. And then, learn what your gaps are and try to fill those gaps. There's content out there to do that, AIIM and others. Reach out, make some relationships within your organization or external your organization. Resolve to do that, to build some of those relationships that I talked about that are needed for this holistic approach. And then start building that holistic roadmap for your organization. Stay positive, and you're going to move forward if you lean into it. So good luck in 2019, and thanks for letting me share my thoughts with you.
Thank you, Mark. And thank you, everyone, for taking the time to join us today. For AIIM, this is Teresa Resick, and we will see you with our next event. And have a good new year.